Lloyd Smucker, the Congressman from the 11th Congressional District that includes Lancaster and south and east of York here, that part of York County. And he joins us here on WSBA. Good morning, Lloyd. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well. Good to be with you.
Well, it's always good to have you aboard, and we've made this kind of a monthly happening now, and glad we are. And first of all, congratulations off your election, 19-point win I saw over Jessica King, your challenger. So 2 more years in the Congress, and congratulations on that.
Yeah. Just a slight correction there. That was last time around. So this time we won by 26 points.
Excuse me. I glanced down there and saw the wrong number.
No,
26 points. That I guess you'd have to consider that somewhat of a mandate from people. Let me ask you a question, Congressman.
Sure.
What's the taste in Republicans' mouths now after this election and the last 4 years of what they've seen with this president in this country? What are your thoughts about that in a general sense?
Well, I think one of the takeaways from this election is that there was a complete rejection or repudiation of the Democrats' radical agenda. And regardless of the outcome of the presidential race, you look all across the country and you see what happened in state legislatures, you see what happened in the governor's races. I mean, these are massive Republican wins. And the same is true in Congress. I mean, we currently are at 205 members. We've picked up, I think, 9 seats have been called now that were held by a Democrat, flipped to Republican. There's going to be a number of others as New York and California call some races. And so I think, despite what may still be the outcome of the presidential race, the voters rejected that radical agenda and really wanted to see something closer to the Republican agenda that we were pushing for. So I think that's one of the big takeaways of this election.
One of the things you just mentioned about the presidential election and the challenges going on here in Pennsylvania, I saw where we have some of our local representatives, Dawn Kiefer, for one, who's been asking that there be an audit of our election here in Pennsylvania. And one of the biggest challenges has been on Act 77, which was passed by the Pennsylvania legislature, which essentially said that all ballots had to be in by the close of day on Election Day. And, of course, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court came back and said, no, you get 3 more days on that. Now, I don't know. I'm just looking at this. Does the country stand an election now that could be essentially seen as taking it away from the voters, even though you might say, well, I disagree with what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court did, and put it in the hands of, let's say, the Supreme Court in the long run? Your thoughts about that? I think we're at a really interesting point in time here in our nation's history.
Well, I think maybe the first comment on that is that every American wants to and deserves to feel confident that our elections have been held securely. Amen. And that all eligible votes are counted efficiently. They were counted in a transparent manner. And so I think the president is well within his right to request a recount, to call an investigation where we have seen some potential evidence of fraud, and to utilize any legal options that are consistent with the election process. I mean, there are a lot of people who felt like this election was not conducted fairly, and it's important to, I think, not only the voters, but also going forward. We need to have the American people feel that an election is held fairly. So, this is going to play itself out over the next weeks and months. It's important to remember that in the 2000 election, Gore did not concede until December 13th. Right. And there was a series of legal processes leading up to that. And so I think we just have to see this play out. I am concerned with some of the actions taken by the Secretary of State here in Pennsylvania, Bookvar, by the Attorney General, State Attorney General Shapiro, who made very partisan statements about who was going to win this election prior to the election. And so I sent a letter along with some other members of, all of the Republican members of Congress in Pennsylvania, all of the delegation here, asking them to recuse themselves from any of the decisions that will need to be made or any of the court battles that will be taking place. I mean, they've shown themselves to be biased, and so they should recuse themselves. But again, I think we're just got that little patience as the final results. In some states, Georgia's going to do a full recount. Final results are still being tabulated in a number of states. And so the process is just going to have to play out.
You know, you said something that I think is really important. You said every American deserves to know that the system works. And yet what I've seen in 2016, I see it again now, is, okay, if I win, don't count the votes again. If I lose, count the votes again. I mean, that's what we come down to. And the saddest part about that comes back to your statement, which is all of us should want to make sure that the votes counted are the votes that were legally counted and legally there for their candidate. And the fact that we all can't agree on that really speaks to the polar opposites that we're at in this country right now. Comment on that, if you would, please.
Well, you're exactly right. I think at the end of this process, all Americans must accept the results of the election once they're certified, and that's going to be true for the former Vice President Biden and President Trump. And the American people should accept that. And, it was really disgusting, really, to see over the past 4 years when that really didn't occur for a lot of people. There were a lot of people who just simply would not accept President Trump as the winner of the last election and did everything they could to not only to block his agenda, but to remove him from office. I mean, it was unbelievable. And so, these calls to accept the election without going through this process, for some people are pretty hypocritical when you see what happened over the last 4 years.
Well, and that brings me to this point, about 45 seconds left. You heard President-elect Biden, if you'd like, last week saying, hey, we need to come together. We need to come together with unity. I'm going to rule for all the people, even the ones that voted against me, and there were over 71 million people that did that. And here's the question. For a lot of people, are they ready to come together in this kind of kumbaya moment, or does there have to be a reckoning for what happened over the last 4 years before unity, if that makes any sense? Your final thoughts, about 30 seconds.
Well, I guess I go back to what I said before. There are many people who voted for the president who are concerned that that maybe their vote didn't count. I've talked to many people, or that this election wasn't conducted properly. And so, first and foremost, we have to lay out to everyone that we've investigated every allegation of fraud and that these have been put to rest, and we'll see what the outcome is. But then I do think we once that happens, then I think the American people should be and hopefully will be ready to move forward and come together as a country.
You and I will probably be talking about that again. Hopefully it'll be settled by then, but maybe not when we talk again in December. Congressman Smucker, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.